The Biden administration asks countries like France to stop talking about sending troops to Ukraine?
No.
But would the U.S. oppose any nation sending troops to Ukraine?
Those are sovereign decisions that a nation has to make. I can just speak for this sovereign nation and this commander-in-chief, and he's made it clear that we will not put U.S. boots on the ground.
This is my video update on this Saturday midday, March the 16th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with what Kirby from the White House said the other day when reporters asked him about what the US's thoughts are with certain EU countries. With certain EU countries like France sending troops to Ukraine. What are your thoughts, Mr. Kirby? What are Joe Biden's thoughts on Macron's idea of French troops going into Ukraine? And Kirby said that these are sovereign decisions that the country must make. The journalist actually asked Kirby, will the U.S. oppose any country sending troops to Ukraine? So will the U.S. try to hold Macron back from sending troops to Ukraine? What are your thoughts, Mr. Kirby? And Kirby's like, these are sovereign countries. Go ahead, Macron, and enter Ukraine. And then Kirby said that the Biden White House, his position is very clear. There will be no U.S. boots on the ground in Ukraine. Oh, man. I bet you Macron listened to that statement from the White House and he was crushed. He was crushed because Macron, what he said yesterday in his TV interview, or 2 days ago in his TV interview, is that France will not go first when it comes to putting boots on the ground in Ukraine. Yes, boots on the ground in Ukraine is an option. Absolutely, Macron said. And Russia must not win, but we will not go first. We will follow whatever country decides to go first by putting boots on the ground in Ukraine. And what Macron was hoping for was that the Biden White House would say, okay, Emmanuel, we'll go first. We'll put boots on the ground in Ukraine, and then you guys can follow. But Kirby said to the media yesterday that, nope, the Biden White House, the United States, will not put boots on the ground in Ukraine. That would be very, very damaging for the Biden White House during this election season. So anyway, that is what Kirby said. If France wants to go ahead and put boots on the ground, go ahead. The U.S. is not going to stop you. The U.S. is not going to stop you, Macron. Go ahead. We're not gonna put boots on the ground, but feel free to send some French troops into Ukraine. But the EU panic with regards to Project Ukraine is off the charts. It is really off the charts, man. I'm telling you, the EU is in an absolute panic because you get statements like this from the White House, which is basically signaling that the United States is pulling back from Project Ukraine, and they're going to dump the whole thing on the European Union. And this is sending Europe into a complete panic because they went all in on Project Ukraine. They actually believed Biden and the Biden White House when it came to Project Ukraine. They actually believed that they would get a regime change in Russia, and then all of the EU kleptocrats and the political class would be able to go into Russia and plunder and pillage all of Russia's resources and then break Russia apart, and they would be the great big victors. Macron would be the big victor. Olaf Scholz would be the victor. They would have been the ones that conquered Russia, and they actually believed this narrative that the Biden White House and the neocons spun and they went all in on Project Ukraine. I mean, they went all in. Boy, did they bet everything on Project Ukraine. And now they are starting to see that the Biden White House is about to dump the entire thing on the European Union. And they are in an absolute panic. We talked a lot about Emmanuel Macron's interview from 2 days ago, which was supposed to be a Macron speech to the French people, but then it got changed to this 30-minute interview with a couple of TV journalists, so as to not make it so dramatic, because the whole thing was basically just looking ridiculous and out of control. And instead of Macron addressing the French people from the podium and telling the French people that France is going to send troops into Ukraine and they are going to defeat Russia, Macron had to settle for a 30-minute TV interview with some journalists where he was basically brought to tears over the fact that Russia is winning. And during the interview, Macron did come out with a statement saying that peace can only be achieved if the collective West takes back Crimea. He said, certainly today Russia is an adversary. The Kremlin regime is an adversary. We are doing everything so that it can put Russia in check, because I will tell you very simply, there is no lasting peace if there is no sovereignty, a return to the internationally recognized borders of Ukraine, including Crimea. Good luck with that, Macron. As Kirby said in the press conference the other day, you're a sovereign nation, bro. You're a sovereign nation. You're free to go into Russia if you wish. The United States is not going to stop you. Oh, man, Kirby. The United States is not going to stop you, Macron. Yeah, go in. Go into Ukraine if you want. Go ahead and try to take Crimea, Emmanuel Macron. Oh, boy. He's trying to dangle the whole Crimea thing to the United States. If we go into Ukraine, we can take Crimea. Come on, guys. We can do it. You guys first, and then I'll follow. France will follow. America first, France will follow. But we can take Crimea. I know we can. Oh, boy. Peace cannot be achieved unless we take Crimea. So Finland, the newest NATO member, Finland came out in support of Macron. The foreign minister, Elina Valtonen, she said, it's important that we not rule everything out for the long term, because we never know how serious the situation becomes. But the Finnish position is clear. We are not right now sending any troops and not willing to discuss that. So the newest NATO member, a country that joined NATO, destroyed its position as a friendly, neutral country bordering Russia, is now saying that they support Macron and his plan for boots on the ground in Ukraine. But according to the foreign minister of Finland, we support Macron, but we're not going to put boots on the ground right now. You go first, Macron. Our position is clear. We support you. But right now, we're not sending any troops, according to the foreign minister of Finland. Latvia came out in support of Macron yesterday, and we had the president of Latvia, Edgars Rinkēvičs. He put out a tweet, a post on Twitter X, saying, I fully support Emmanuel Macron. We should not draw red lines for ourselves. We must draw red lines for Russia, and we should not be afraid to endorse them. Ukraine must win. Russia must be defeated. Russia delenda est. which is Latin for Russia must be destroyed. This is coming from Latvia. Go ahead, Latvia. Send your 12 or 15 troops into Ukraine. You guys go first. The U.S. is not going to stop you. The U.S. has given its blessing for you guys to send your troops into Ukraine. So go ahead, Latvia. You have the blessing of the Biden White House. Of course, the Biden White House is not going to come to your rescue, according to Kirby. But you're free to send your troops into Ukraine and destroy Russia, as you say in your Twitter X post. Maria Zakharova, she replied to this statement from the president of Latvia, Russia delenda est. And Maria Zakharova, she pointed out that this is a reference to the phrase Carthago delenda est, which is Latin for Carthage must be destroyed, which Cato the Elder ended all his speeches in the Roman Senate in 2nd century BC. So then Maria Zakharova, she puts out this factoid, that what the president of Latvia is referring to is Cato the Elder. Carthago delenda est, Carthage must be destroyed. And then this is what Maria Zakharova said in her reply to the president of Latvia. And this was a long reply, so let me read you a part of it. It's impossible to eliminate Rinkevich's illiteracy. He's hopeless, but I'll stand up for Cato. The fiery orator Cato the Elder was known throughout the Republic for publicly exposing the vices and decadence of the Roman elite, criticizing them for their luxury and debauchery. Addressing his fellow citizens, he urged them to follow the precepts of their ancestors and to build their lives on the principles of temperance and frugality. Cato dedicated an entire poem to morality in which he fought against laziness, extravagance, and laxity. He opposed foreign influence, striving to preserve the old Roman spirit among his fellow citizens. He denounced corruption. And then Zakharova basically said towards the end of her reply to the president of Latvia that the president of Latvia has pretty much exposed himself and exposed his stupidity and his projection, actually. He's basically projecting his own debauchery and decadence is basically the point that Maria Zakharova was making in this very clever, very smart, eloquent, but also long reply to the president of Latvia. You can find Maria Zakharova's full statement on Telegram and on Twitter X. Her full translated to English statements on the interwebs. So the European Union, or the European Parliament, they're looking to get some Russian gold in their pockets, and they came out with a resolution the other day, which basically tells Russia that Russia has to return Romania's gold, and this is coming from the Parliament of the European Union. And basically the story is that, or the history is that Romania gave something like 95 tons or 97 tons of gold in 1916 to Tsarist Russia, to the Russian Empire, for safekeeping. And then the revolution happened, and then the World War I and World War II, and basically Romania, or the European Union, through Romania is saying that they want their 95 tons of gold back from Russia that Romania gave to Tsar Nicholas. That's basically what the European Union Parliament decided on the other day. And Maria Zakharova, once again, Maria Zakharova, she pointed out that a part of this gold had already been returned to Romania in, I believe, 1935 or 25. I forgot the year that Maria Zakharova noted in her response. She's like, we already returned part of that gold as a goodwill gesture. And then she said that Russia did not seek or press Romania for reparations after World War II. But anyway, that was, in summary, that was Zakharova's reply to the European Union and this gold from Romania. Dmitry Medvedev was more direct in his reply to the European Union. He said, the EU has stolen 300 billion worth of Russian assets and is now demanding that Russia return gold to Romania. There is nothing to say except F off. That's Medvedev. Zakharova gives like a whole history, and she rebukes and rebuttals the claim from the European Union that Russia should give gold back to Romania. Anyway, she gets into a very lengthy history as to why this is not the case, and then she debates the EU Parliament's decision. And then you have Medvedev coming along and posting on social media, you guys have stolen 300 billion of our assets. Go F off. Oh, man. All right. Anyway, just panic in the EU. And they're trying to find whatever ways they can to poke the bear, to poke at Russia, to antagonize Russia, and to hopefully, in their minds, to hopefully find a way to pull in the United States into staying on board with Project Ukraine, because they're absolutely terrified at the signals that they're getting from the U.S., which is that the U.S. is about to ditch Project Ukraine and just let the European Union deal with the whole debacle. Anyway, Macron, after his speech or his interview, his 30-minute interview to the French media, he got on a plane and traveled to Berlin, and he had a bilateral meeting with Olaf Scholz, and then the Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, flew in, and they had a trilateral threesome meeting, and you know, the message from Scholz could not be more clear to Macron. And this is the reason why they got together. Scholz basically told Macron, we are not going to send troops into Ukraine. It is not going to happen. Scholz said, and I quote, it is also clear that we are not at war with Russia. That is a direct quote from Olaf Scholz. So basically, Macron was summoned to Berlin or summoned to Germany, and he was told by Olaf Scholz, there are going to be no troops in Ukraine. We got to stop talking about escalation with Russia, because we're going to get pummeled by Russia if we do escalate, especially without the backing of the United States. And the United States is obviously not backing us. So Macron, zip it, shut up, and that's that. That is that. Interesting place for a cactus to be. Huh? Huh. So yeah, that was what the purpose of this meeting was. And let's see here. Germany, Poland, and France have agreed that they will never initiate an escalation of the conflict in Ukraine. Macron Macron said after the meeting with Scholz and Tusk in the Weimar Triangle format. I love the name that they've given this format, the Weimar Triangle format. It's got those World War I, World War II vibes to it, doesn't it? But even Macron had to come out. They actually made Macron come out and say that yeah, we will never initiate an escalation with Russia in Ukraine. Man, Macron, that is embarrassing, bro. That is embarrassing. You've been running your mouth for the last 3-4 weeks about how we have to escalate with Russia, how you're going to send troops into Ukraine, how Ukraine must win and Russia must lose, and you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that Russia loses. And you go visit Olaf Scholz, of all people, Olaf Scholz, the weakest leader probably in the entire world, and the weakest leader in the entire world actually makes you come out with a statement saying that you're not going to escalate with Russia, and that's that. Oh man, that is embarrassing, bro. Macron, that is embarrassing, man. Olaf Scholz put you in your place. Oh my God, we will not escalate with Russia. We will not initiate an escalation of the conflict in Ukraine. Macron had to come out and say, Olaf Scholz put a beat down on Macron. Oh man. Anyway, they came out and they said, the three of them, Tusk, Scholz, and Macron, they said that they're going to create a long-range rocket coalition, whatever the F that even means. They didn't get into any of the specifics. But Scholz is like, we're not going to send Taurus missiles to Ukraine. That's not going to happen. But we're going to create a long-range rocket coalition to send long-range rockets and artillery to Ukraine. Okay, whatever. And Scholz also said that they're going to use the proceeds from the Russian frozen assets to buy weapons for Ukraine, which is nothing new. Nothing new at all. Not the actual Russian frozen assets, not like the 200 billion, but they're going to use the interest, the proceeds from Euroclear, and they're going to use those proceeds, something like 2 or 3 billion euros every year to purchase weapons for Ukraine. In other words, Scholz basically announced that they're going to take the interest from the 200 billion in Russian frozen assets and they're going to give it over to the military-industrial complex. How about that? They're going to give 3 billion to the MIC every year from the interest being accrued from the Russian frozen assets. Spiegel in Germany is reporting that Annalena 360, she is working behind the scenes to try and get Olaf Scholz to approve Taurus missiles to Ukraine. Baerbock is trying behind closed doors to persuade German Chancellor Scholz to supply Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine, according to Der Spiegel. I wonder how Annalena 360 is persuading Olaf Scholz to green light Taurus missiles to Project Ukraine. How is 360 Annalena trying to convince Olaf Scholz? Who knows? I imagine that sooner or later Olaf Scholz is going to fold and he'll give over the Taurus missiles to Ukraine. But so far he's been firm in his position, because his argument is that if we send Taurus missiles to Ukraine, well, that means we're going to have to send German soldiers into Ukraine to operate those Taurus missiles. And for Olaf Scholz, that's his red line. So far, that's been his red line. Anyway, let's talk about this incursion into Russia that happened a couple of days ago and actually continues to happen even today, which is basically the Ukraine military, or what they claim are Russian anti-Putin soldiers, is what the Ukraine narrative is. Anti-Putin Russian soldiers who are trying to enter Russian territory in the north, and trying to enter Belgorod and Kursk and take over villages and stuff like that during the time period of the Russian presidential elections. And at first, this was thought to be a small operation, a small incursion. The Russian military completely annihilated the first wave of this incursion like three days ago. And these Ukraine forces, they suffered catastrophic losses, but they continued the day after, and they continued the day after that. And they even had helicopters trying to make their way into Russian territory, and those helicopters were destroyed. Anyway, long story short, this is a huge operation, or this was a huge, massive operation. Much bigger than I initially thought. And Putin yesterday, he revealed that, and the Russian Ministry of Defense revealed that we're talking about 2,500 soldiers in this failed, catastrophic, failed attempt to enter Belgorod and Kursk. 2,500 soldiers, something like 35 or 40 tanks, Bradley vehicles, you name it. They've been throwing it at Russia to try and enter Belgorod and Kursk and to take over villages during the Russian elections, and they have been annihilated because the reports are that the Russian military was tipped off on this operation. They had very good intel. They found out about this big operation, and they were ready. They were ready and waiting, and they have been destroying wave after wave after wave of Ukraine attacks into Belgorod and Kursk. This has been a massive, huge debacle for the Ukraine military, and that is why the collective West is not reporting on this whatsoever. They've been very, very quiet on this story, and that's why they have the narrative of anti-Putin Russians that provides the cover, instead of saying the Ukraine military. They have the cover of anti-Putin Russians so as to not embarrass the Ukraine military and not embarrass NATO, because an operation like this must have had the green light, the okay from NATO and the collective West and the Pentagon. There's no way that 2,500 troops, 40 tanks, 35, 40 tanks, and Bradleys, and all of this hardware, and all of these vehicles would be used by anti-Putin Russian soldiers or even the Ukraine military without the approval of the Pentagon and NATO. So this was probably one of Nuland's surprises. I imagine that one of her surprises was Crimea and the bridge. And I believe her other surprise is this huge force, this significant operation into Belgorod and Kursk during the elections. And the Russians, they've annihilated this force. I mean, they were waiting, they were ready, and they've completely destroyed this entire operation that is being conducted and is now, from what I imagine, is now on its last legs. But there are reports saying that what this operation, what its main goal was, well, two goals: embarrass Putin during the elections, plant the flag in a village in the Belgorod region, embarrass Putin during the elections. But another goal of this operation, and keep in mind, this is a big operation, and it must have had the okay of some people in the collective West. I can't see this not having the okay of some people in the collective West. But one of the other goals of this operation, according to various reports, and I can't confirm this, but one of the goals was to get to a weapons storage facility, which is around 20 kilometers from the border between Russia and Ukraine, the Belgorod region. And some of the reports claim that this storage facility actually had tactical nuclear weapons stored at this facility. And the thinking is that Ukraine wanted to get this force wanted to get to the storage facility, get control of these tactical nukes, and either use them as a way to pressure Putin to back off of the conflict in Ukraine, or even to perhaps launch some sort of false flag event. That's what some reports are claiming was the main goal of this operation, outside of trying to embarrass the Russian president during the weekend elections. And Putin, he said in a statement that these attacks, they've been a complete failure, he said, but they will not go unpunished because there have been some civilian casualties in Belgorod. There's definitely been a disruption in Belgorod, and there has been some civilian casualties in the region. And Putin yesterday, he said that these attacks will not go unpunished. And yesterday, we did have missile strikes in Odessa, which allegedly killed something like 100 collective West mercenaries in Odessa, in the Odessa region. All right, I think I have to wrap up the video in a bit, but we are getting reports from the Pentagon that they have a $6.5 billion hole in weapons that they need to cover. These are weapons that have been sent to Ukraine and destroyed by Russia. And the Pentagon is now going to Congress and saying, we need to replenish. And we need $6.5 billion in order to replenish all of the weapons that were sent to Ukraine and destroyed by the Russian military. There are collective West media channels that are reporting that it's not even $6.5 billion. What the Pentagon really needs is $10 billion in order to replenish the demilitarization at the hands of the Russian military. And we also have reports that Netanyahu is ready to move forward with his operation in Rafah, and he is asking the U.S. military for more 155 mm shells, as well as 120 mm tank shells. And the Israeli military is suffering from a shortage of this ammo, and they're ready to continue or to expand their war in Gaza, and they need these 155 mm shells. And we already know that the collective West, well, they're short of the 155 mm shells. So now you have Ukraine needs these 155 mm shells, and now you have Israel knocking on the Pentagon's door and saying, we need 155 mm shells. Let's do a clown world, and we will wrap this video up. And well, let's do one quick story before I get to my clown world. Duda was in the United States, the Polish president, and as he was about to leave the United States after having meetings in the White House, his Boeing plane had some problems. Boeing, and Duda had to take another plane, a backup plane, because there was something wrong with his main Boeing 737. Boeing is going through a lot of difficulties, a whole lot of difficulties. And I was actually reading some news which said that the Boeing whistleblower actually told a friend of his that he's in good spirits after giving out all the information about Boeing and what was going on at Boeing. And he's like, I'm in good spirits. Everything is fine. Everything is going to be fine. But he told his friend that if something happens to me, I did not self-delete. And she came out with a statement the other day, and she said, look, I forgot his name. I forgot the whistleblower's name, but she's like, he was in good spirits. He was feeling good. And he told me that if something happens to him, this was not a self-deletion. So that story came out the other day, connected to the Boeing whistleblower. So a clown world from Charles Michel, the European Council president, or whatever his position is. I don't think many people really care about Charles Michel, but he put out a tweet, a post on Twitter X, commenting on the Russian elections. He said, and he put this out on the 15th of March. So this was yesterday as the Russian elections were starting up. He said, would like to congratulate Vladimir Putin on his landslide victory in the elections starting today. No opposition, no freedom, no choice. You're so clever, Charles Michel. You're so clever, yet you're so oblivious to reality, to your own situation, bro. I mean, my man, Charles Michel. Do you not know that you're an unelected bureaucrat and technocrat? I mean, you're talking about how elections in Russia are, or you're implying that elections in Russia are a sham, or these aren't real democratic elections. But dude, you're unelected. You're an unelected official in Europe. Man, no self-awareness, like zero self-awareness, these EU kleptocrats. They like to pretend that they're democratically elected, Michel and van der Leyen, but it's all make-believe. Make-believe democracy. Anyway, that's the video. Charles Michel, you know who Charles Michel reminds me of? He reminds me of that the French soldier in Monty Python, the Holy Grail. You know, the French soldier that's making fun of King Arthur in the castle. He's like, I would fight in your general direction. That's who Charles Michel reminds me of. He reminds me of that guy in the Holy Grail. Anyway, that's the video. Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up a Duran t-shirt, or go to reversegear.shop and pick up a Reverse Gear hoodie, premium, very nice hoodie, amazing hoodie, beautiful hoodie. And I will put the link to reversegear.shop. And I mean, this hoodie doesn't get any better. It's beautiful. All right, take care.